and this is for the communications category of the 2012 Be Inspired Awards. And today we have Murali Balakrishnan and Sunil Kumar from IMMCO Inc. presenting on their quality control automation tool they've built on top of Bentley technology. So over to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just checking if this is working. At the very outset, I'd like to thank Bentley for having nominated us and given us the opportunity to be here today. I thought to start, we'd give you a kind of a brief on who we are and what we do, a little bit about our corporate profile. IMMCO is a pre-construction engineering services company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We've got about 18 plus years of experience in the cable and telecom space. We've primarily been serving the cable space, so we call ourselves cable positive. That's because the telecom folks don't like the cable folks where we come from, so they call them the dark side. And we've got about 250 experienced professionals. 25 of them are based in Atlanta, Georgia, and 225 are based in our offshore location in India. This is where we do all our heavy lifting. We have been a Bentley partner for a very long time now, and we've seen the product evolve. The comms product was earlier with a company called CIS. It was acquired by Bentley, so we saw it through the transition phase, and now we're actually working very closely with Bentley on the V8i platform. By virtue of having done this, we also have an excellent background with Oracle. We're also an Oracle Gold partner. We do a lot of work in the spatial space itself. On the Bentley side, again, we are an ELS partner. We're one of the largest in the country, and we have deployed, I think, several thousand miles of plant, which I'll tell you more as we get into the presentation. The difference that we bring to the table, or the value that we bring to the table, is we're not a generic out-of-the-box design shop, which is what most people are in this business. We carry with us a lot of cable telecom project managers. They bring in a lot of diverse experience into the business, so they have a sound understanding of the industry and its practices. So we actually have a very sound cable practice per se. Plus, added to this, we have a mix of design engineers who have got tremendous amount of experience in the HFC space. For those of you who don't know, HFC stands for hybrid, fiber, and coax, and that's our mainstay business activity. We also have in our midst software developers, and Sunil, who's my colleague here, heads the software division. We've seen a very close interaction between the software team and the design team to increase productivity both internally and externally. And it's by virtue of that that we've created this quality automation toolkit. We've also got database administrators, and lastly, to touch it all, we touch the data from the inception point or the creation engine. Bentley in this case is the creation engine. It moves on to a different product set of ours called IBIS. So that's the viewing engine. So we've got a GIS engine that we've created, and that's what we do from a geospatial space. Again, I mean, like I said, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but there's a unique kind of an offering that we bring because of the software development experience and the geospatial experience that we have. By virtue of that, we've actually created this quality automation tool. And the quality automation tool was firstly created in order to increase the productivity and efficiency of the staff internally. And we've been serving the cable industry as a design and drafting house, and we've got about 225 people. It's difficult to manage a workflow process when you actually take the work from the organization and then break it down into sub-modules or work packages for the people, and then bring it all back together and finally deliver it to the client. That's a big task. So we had to make sure that all points that get connected don't come together well, and there are no loose wheels in this whole process. The second area is serviceability analysis. A little bit about it. In the cable market today, the new revenue generating points are from the serviceability standpoint. So MSOs are today driving their new revenue from business class customers. People like Comcast or Time Warner Cable have several $1 billion that they have expecting from this kind of model. And we help them generate that revenue through the usage of this quality automation tool. We do business process automation. We have written applications for clients that help them reduce the number of 10 clicks they have. So if a certain process used to take 25 clicks to get to the actual fruit of the whole problem, we have reduced that to 5 clicks, 6 clicks. So we understand process engineering to a great extent. Project cost estimating is another tool we created for another MSO of ours. Enterprise mapping and applications is again a byproduct of all these things. Like I said, we do HF design and services, drafting and data management, field mapping and verification. That's enough said about ourselves. Let's come to the challenge of what we were faced with and the reason for this toolkit. The MSOs, as we call them, multi-system operators, are big cable companies in the United States like Comcast Cable, Time Warner Cable, Cox Communications, Charter, the likes of those. They have to upgrade their network every year, literally, to keep up to the technology. So we've helped them move from 550 to 670 to 860 to 1 gigahertz. Every time they make a change in the network, they have to go back and redesign and re-architect this entire thing. So we will help them through the upgrade process, and this final opportunity came with one of the largest MSOs. If I'm allowed to use the name, it's actually Time Warner Cable in the United States. They had embarked on a project of, trying to bring in about 250,000 miles of plant in a time span of 3 years through 5 different contractors. So that was a humongous project that they had. And by virtue of that, they had to make sure that all this data that is coming back from the contractors were accurate and consistent. There were a lot of spec file issues. There were issues in terms of the way they wanted the product to behave when it came back, so that when they gave it back to the systems, the people would use it more efficiently. Again, in that, by the usage of that, they could go back and do their serviceability more accurately. They could do customer provisioning, asset tracking or inventory tracking, facilities and equipment maintenance, network planning, and finally billing and tax rates. These are all touch points of this data, and this is where they were losing or trying to make more money from with the efficient use of a network. So the challenge here was to ensure that thousands of miles designed by contractors meet the rigorous quality control standards required by the Advanced Technology Group. In response to this challenge, IMMCO designed a quality control toolkit to work seamlessly with Bentley VAI technology. Key objectives of the application was including the fact that it would run directly within the Bentley VAI framework, take full advantage of the relational database model, provide extreme flexibility on checks. We'll show you how that would when we actually give you a real-life demo of the tool itself. Validate proper symbols and labels, locate duplicates. This was the biggest problem they had. They had a lot of duplicate information coming in because there were 5 or 6 different people working on the same workspace. So there were possibilities of inaccuracies coming in. So we had to basically trap them and then find a mechanism to go back and trace them back and correct them. So the goals of the application from a real-time perspective was to significantly reduce the time. Because when they brought all this work back together and they brought it back into the company, they had a team of about 10 people trying to QC about several thousand miles of plant every week on week. So their backlogs kept increasing and they were going nuts with this. They said, this is not working, so we need to come up with a normal automated solution to this. They actually gave us about 3 months of time. They put this RFP out and they invited 4 or 5 vendors to come in and demonstrate it. But the advantage we had was we were already doing this internally, so we basically showcased what we were doing and they gave us the opportunity to do it. We worked very closely with the team within Time Warner Cable and basically came up with these 261 parameters that will allow them to basically make sure that the data that's coming in maintains a certain quality. The unique combination that we had was obviously the Bentley's VAI product set, which we consider to be the most intelligent communications platform in the industry at this point in time, and the skills and industry experience that we bring in. We have a very deep understanding of HFC networks. We have a good expertise in Bentley VAI comms. Like we said, we are an Oracle Gold partner, so by virtue of that, we've been working very closely with them on the spatial technology, so it gives us access to the spatial 11G database management. We have understood how query performances have to work, and we've taken care of that. We're also Microsoft.NET or Microsoft development partners, so we've got .NET experts in our fold. And then lastly, project management and application testing and documentation. This unique combination has helped us create this tool. The application was developed to include the following features: flexible project configuration, selection of predefined areas, to import a list of existing areas that they had so that they could bring in a lot of the legacy data into this application and basically run the QC tool. So if they had a huge backlog, we helped them clear the backlog and then start fresh. So that time frame that we delivered the project, it took us about 3 months for the actual prototype to be built. Then we gave it back to them, and they actually started user testing. And they came back with a lot of feedback, which we added on to the tool. In 6 months' time, they went live. And the application has been in work for about 1.5 years now. And they've already processed something like 180,000 miles through that. So this.
Just click the video.
It's going in. No, just click back there.
Yeah.
So this is how the tool looks like. Like we said, it primarily looks for the Oracle interface that's there. It tells you whether this is connected in a live environment. It basically makes sure that you have the right cell libraries and the spec files that you've chosen. Then there are several other settings. There are some preliminary settings. There's some strand settings, design, fiber, and mandatory checks. In all, there are about, like I said, 261 parameters that we came together with them. And this exercise of requirements gathering took about 4 weeks in that whole process. So we made sure we had data coming in from the systems, we had data coming from the advanced technology group, and we collated all that data and made a tool out of that. So these are the various checks and balances that you can maintain. You can go, some of the systems may not follow this because they may not have all the data that you require, so they can basically customize it to their requirement. But the mandatory checks were mandatory for everybody. Like some people might use a little different symbology, some people might use a different kind of a naming convention. So we allow them for some kind of a cheating function here, but at the core, the data was made sure that it was always up to standard. You could turn on and turn off layers as and when you wanted. Mandatory, if you look at the exhaustiveness to which this tool has gone into, it saved them so much of time and money at the same point because they could get more work done by spending less amount of money here. Yeah, then it's not let it go through. The whole idea was when the client gave us this, he wanted to have a report function so he could make it easy for them to basically find out where this is. So once this has been done, and he'll show you when we do the actual live demo, when a QC has been run, what kind of report gets generated. And what they did was they took this one step further. They internally tested it. Once they approved it, it went back to the contractors. And the contractors began using this to get their work QC'd before it came back into their fold. So they saved a lot of time in creating a very efficient process from data creation down to its delivery by this process of it. So right now you're running the QC process, you're reading the cell libraries. What used to take them sometimes 4 weeks or a week sometimes, we are reduced to about 24 minutes today. So that's a phenomenal reduction in terms of time. Because this used to come into the hands of people who are, this is monotonous work, let's be clear. It's not something that you love to do. But at the same token, you have to maintain that, you have to ensure that data quality is maintained here, because this will help them either ensure a proper asset management of their network, or they could actually go after, from a proactive perspective, trying to monitor the network more efficiently. So it's before and after. So the more accurate the data here is, the more accurate it will be all the other systems and all the connecting points. So you want to show them a demo of the tool itself. So what we've done here is we selected a node. So it's basically going to run a QC check. He's chosen those specific, selected those specific fields, and he started the QC. He's checking for duplicate addresses, locations with no addresses. That's what NA stands for. Checking the series, whatever else that parameters that have been set there. Once you click on it, it comes up with a report. and it tells you these are the errors that were there. The amplifier name is greater than 8 characters, and that's got an XFM ID. It's got that. You can actually click on that specific error. It will take you to that specific location. You could then go back in there, correct it, and then come back and run the QC tool again. So if any user-based errors that were there could be corrected right out of it. So for typical scenarios when a drafter is or a designer is going about doing this work, he can complete his work, run the QC tool, go back and check it. So he doesn't have to really worry about whether he's done the right thing or not. He's made sure that he can take care of it. If he doesn't trap it at visual QC level, he can trap it at the level which included the QC tool itself. And it tells you the accuracy level. So what Time Warner said was, they said, okay, when you send it back, I don't want to see anything less than 99% accuracy here. Otherwise, don't bother to send us your shipment. And this report was included in the shipment that was sent to them. So they would open this and they'd run it again from there and then check that there are no, because the people could still cheat, right? They could go. So we had blocked all these provisions to take care of it and reduce the amount of time the customers spend on that.
You want to go back to the slide?
Yeah. So like I said, it was implemented to analyze about 250,000 miles of plant data in the entire United States. What this resulted in, the return on investment, I would say, is improved accuracy. It created a proper consistency of data, so all systems had, we know all data is created equal, but some are more equal than the others here. And the problem that they had was everyone was creating unequal data, so it was getting even more difficult for them to manage this. So we created consistencies. It saved them a lot of time, and this reduced the cost, overall period of cost. So, I don't want to quantify because they had spent several millions of dollars over a period of time, and they never got to where they are. But this tool has helped them to a great extent to achieve what they wanted. And it reduced the time, like I said. One example we wanted to show you is it reduced approximately 1 week. What used to take 1 week has now been reduced to about 24 minutes using this tool. So then they can be pretty much sure that what they're getting right now is of the highest quality. And I would say that we don't want to, like I said, quantify what is there, but it's been an increase, tenfold increase in their migration process. Since Bentley V8i was a more recent platform, and this was risen to a level that was unattainable before. So this tool has got raving reviews within the organization, and they've actually had tremendous success with this. Lastly, what I felt to touch upon is this new paradigm. This is data sustainability. They have got in their fold all this data coming in, but they have no means of making sure that once the data is handed over to the systems, they can continue to maintain this data the way they gave it back to them. We've had scenarios where clients have gone about spending this much of money, but when it eventually goes back to the system, they go back to the old ways, which is the norm typically because they wouldn't in the first place. There's a resistance to even move to something new. But at the same time, if they were to get something that they can control, then this was what they could do. Lastly, they could automate their whole workflow. And this workflow process, which we helped them move data from creation to delivery to final deployment, was handled in the most efficient process. So the toolkit has helped them take full advantage of the powerful features and the communication intelligence built into the Bentley V8i platform itself. And I think without that, like we said, the core platform is Bentley. That is the core for them today. And this customer has signed several $1 million worth of work off them. So that's the way it stands. In conclusion, I would say no other combination of technology, industry experience, and services could have provided such a powerful tool. And this has led to a new group, fortunately, because most of the people coming off this project in 3 years' time will be going into a new group called data governance. So that any data that's being sent out to the systems now, they can still continue to look into and help them maintain the standards. So that data governance part of it, it's also created a new job opportunity within the client organization for people who are currently on this project to ensure that their knowledge and their understanding of what happened here isn't lost in this whole process. So they can continue to keep that within this, because typically in a project life cycle, once a project is done, people wither away, go back to what they do, or leave the organization. But here, you're trying to make sure that these people continue to retain their jobs and also at the same token, transfer the knowledge across and maintain standards right across. And I would say, in conclusion, Bentley's V8i platform is the most intelligent OSP, ISP design tool and the quality control toolkit that we created for this specific MSO has been a great success. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yep. Thank you, Murali and Sunil. Jurors, you get questions first, and then I'll open it up to anyone else who has anything to ask.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
It's exciting that you have what you said, clients that every year come back to you because they're going to continue to grow the systems. And I'm from Kansas City, and we have Google in there trying to build a gigabit network, and so I would think there's still going to be a pretty bright future for you guys if everybody goes to a gigabit network. Okay, so here's the question. You said you had 5 competitors, right? Have you raised the bar now for what your MSOs expect from your competitors? And or are you also getting additional work now because you can handle more work accurately and on time?
Yes, I mean, to answer your question, we are getting additional work. Like I said, we've got 2 kinds of areas that we specialize in. One is the data construction part, which is the actual data sets that we do from a design perspective. We have pumped out several thousand miles on one side. On the other side, we have helped them create new applications by virtue of this understanding that we bring to the table. So, for example, if you're saying these 5 competitors, I think you're referring to, Time Warner Cable, Comcast, and the likes of
I thought you said you had competitors in the business that you're in.
Oh, yeah. We have a company. Yes, you're right. I mean,
so are they doing something similar to your knowledge, or now are the MSOs coming back to them and saying, you need to step it up?
I think they are. I mean, in fact, this tool has actually helped them produce more. That's the direct benefit they have got from this tool. Because in the past, they would just send it out, and then the MSO would either kick it back and say, you made all these mistakes, go back and correct it. Now with this tool in their stable, they can actually churn out more work. So it's actually helped them get more work. And us, I mean, we are trying to get more from a software perspective and go more in that direction. Because like I said, our core focus is going to be in this area, in the development side. We're trying to innovate more in terms of creating an efficient process of quality automation itself.
Yeah. Quick question. I don't think I need the microphone. Oh, I do? Oh, okay. I guess my question is, you try to get to a 99% quality level now, and before levels like this weren't obtainable.
Sure.
So previously maybe there was a manual check and then some statistics were run for a certain confidence.
Correct.
And now that you've applied this, are contractors on the first pass, is this making them deliver better data?
Yes.
So they're at 80%, 85%. And what's the feedback from the contractors on their side for running this tool? Do they find it helpful because it's just part of the process, or did they initially think it was burdensome? Or
there's somebody sitting right there if you want to ask him that. He's a competitor and a contractor.
Me and our competitors, we're good friends. And we do use that tool, and we find it. Thank you. Yes, Murali and I are good friends and also competitors in the same field. And through the process of the data construction through this large MSO, Time Warner, we find it extremely helpful for us and our people, because when we go through a drafting or design posting process, we have QC people, then they QC that, and then we run it through their tool, and then we find more things, and then it goes back again, and we go about 1 or 2 times, and then it has to pass Time Warner's selective process through this reporting tool, and sometimes things get rejected. Sometimes it's usually just a couple of small things, and we go and fix them, and then we get it submitted, and if you don't pass your QC review, you don't get any more miles.
Exactly.
So they're kind of like hold the cart before the horse.
Thank you, John.
Assuming that at some stage in the future all this data is going to be on board, who is responsible for maintaining it when it's all on board? Is it the MCO? Do they put that out to contractors? How does that whole process work? Because I've got this vision going off to infinity as the sort of data comes on board, but by the time it's on board, some of it's out of date already, and so on.
Right. Good question, actually. I mean, that's why they've created this organization within the group called the Data Governance on top here. So typically this QC group, or the Advanced Technology Group within the core company that is currently looking after this project, will roll off this project. And since they have a very deep understanding of this, they're going to propagate the usage of standards, the benefits of having a standards-based setup in your organization. So they're going to go back and pick their brains on how they want to maintain this. And once this is done, they'd continue to keep those jobs going there, plus try and add more quality. This is a continuous process, because more and more data gets generated every day. So they're trying to innovate. I mean, today, like I said, it's like they're at 1 gigahertz. Tomorrow, if someone else, like Motorola or Cisco, come up with a 2 gigahertz network, and that's going to happen. We're already hearing rumors in the market that once Google applies its fiber to the home technology, or you got these wireless companies, AT&T just announced $13 billion in trying to get all their LTE-based networks and the 4G systems coming in place. This is competition for them. So they'll obviously have to continuously upgrade their systems, and as they upgrade, this network architecture changes, so they have to go back and redo this. But the change won't be as bad because they have a solid platform like Bentley VAI that encompasses the whole thing. So you already got that in place. The toolkit allows them to maintain the standard, and finally the people sitting on top can continue to make sure that everyone does their job well.
But the workflow process seems as challenging as the technology.
Oh yeah, I mean it's part of the beast, I would say. It's something that is a given because this is a continuous process. It's the irony of technology, I would say. We had an initial resistance to even move to Bentley VAI because 8.05 was more or less a de facto standard. But then they got into VAI. VAI brought a lot more advantages because they have taken this data set and they've moved it to RDCs, which is their regional data centers. In the past, it used to be locked down to, correct me if I'm wrong here, John, each individual system had their own company per se, and they did work their own way. They said, no more of this. We're going to decentralize, move it out. We're going to make more control of it from a corporate standpoint, so standards can be implemented. And going forward, we're going to make sure that data is manageable, more easily manageable.
I'll ask two questions. Address how you have your core team here, your customer here, or in the States, but 225 people basically working offshore. How does that work with this technology? And then the second question is, we just had Hurricane Sandy, and I bet a lot of distribution poles with a lot of cable came down. Are your MSOs able to use the data that you've got to go back and rebuild faster, better, cheaper?
Yes. To answer your first question, we've actually got a phenomenally well-tuned or fine-tuned intranet based out of our office in India. And like I said, we do the heavy lifting there, but most of the project management and the final QC work still happens in the United States. And we actually have project managers dedicated to, let's say, 10 individuals or 25 individuals working on that specific project. So they have project meetings every morning. They have a common website that they go back to. They can track a project from the time it's been sent back in the form of a work order down to QCing it on a regular basis, having huddles every now and then, and making sure that the product is eventually vetted by the folks in the United States before it's delivered to the client. We don't do a direct delivery because we want the data to touch here, because the knowledge even now lies in our offices out here. These are the veterans of the business. They know exactly. They could do a visual QC and still say, I think you got the QC tool parts, but you still placed this wrong. It could be something else that is totally different. So we still have that process in place. So it has to be at a point where we can do a direct delivery, but we still maintain this workforce out here to make sure that it's localized before it's delivered. To answer your second question in terms of, how do I put that?
Rebuilding storm damage.
Yeah, I was trying to see where we had used it before. We'd actually helped another MSO, Cox Communications, when they had issues back with another area back down south, and this was during the Katrina days, and we'd done all their work, so we could do hotspots. They did a complete insurance claim based on the bill of materials that they could do. And the same was being done in New York too. In fact, we are the ones who did Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and Bergen County, and Manhattan, portion of Manhattan. And the incumbents are sitting right there. So the other people benefit from it too. But what they've done is they've actually taken all this data that's there, the plant map. We can run a BOM, the bill of materials. Once you get a BOM from here, they know exactly what kind of equipment to order. Secondly, with this plant information, they know exactly where the assets are. So they're using this to a great extent for that. In fact, there are some things that have happened which I'm not allowed to disclose, but they are taking some immediate measures of providing customers with services, free services and things like that, trying to get them all back in action.
Okay, I'm going to just draw it to an end there because I want to make sure we're fair about the amount of time allotted to each presenter. I want to thank you once again for a very good presentation, a very interesting project indeed. Thank you very much.